once in a while and make sure that they're progressing the way that they should. So this one, there's a bunch of honey on top of the frame, and then there's cap brood toward the bottom.
Okay.
So we'll look around, try to find the queen. She's probably not with all this cap brood. But I do see some eggs, so there's a chance she's on the frame.
So you're going to put the whole nuke in the center?
I'm going to put it, yes, I'm going to put the whole thing in the center, and then I'm going to take one of your undrawn frames and split the nuke in the middle. They draw the frames out better when they're inside the cluster.
Yep.
But you don't want to overwhelm them when they're this tiny.
Okay. Wow, that's nice.
Yes.
That's brood, right? All that in the center.
Yep.
And a little capped honey in the corners?
Yep.
Wow.
And there's a couple of cells of pollen right inside the honey, but not very much. They've got quite a bit of brood.
Busy, busy, busy. Oh, on the bottom, aren't those queen things?
This is just burr comb on the bottom. The queen cells...
They would look different. They would actually point down.
Yes.
Wow. You don't have to find the queen if you don't want to. I mean, if you see it, say it. If you don't, that's fine too.
Certainly going to try.
She's in there.
Yes.
And she's busy. Yeah. Wow. And on your website, it said that these were created in April.
Yes.
So this is everything they've done since April.
Yes, they have quite busy.
And here it is, the end of May. Oh wow, look at that.
Yes. So this one...
All built up.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of eggs and pearl brood in the center.
Yeah. It's built up pretty well.
Some nice pollen in too. Most of these queens are pretty dark. We have noticed some variability. There have been a few light ones and a few that are sort of in between.
Now the queens you're getting are those, what was it called, buck things?
Buckfast, yes.
And then you are taking that virgin queen and mating it with your bees.
Yes. And ours are pretty much a mix of the Italian strains and Carnolians. We don't stick to just one type of bee. you know, it's a lot better if you have a diverse population.
Well, the queen is supposedly a mixture of Italian and English.
Yes.
I looked on the internet.
Yeah, I did too.
And there, they talked about the history of that queen has been around since about 1913. Look at that.
So with these black plastic frames, it's pretty easy to see down to the bottom.
Yep.
So you can see the eggs in there.
Were they coated with wax?
Yes. Yes.
Did you do that, or they come pre-coated?
They came pre-coated.
Yeah, mine did too.
Yeah, they seem to draw them out a lot better if there's already a little bit of wax on to get them started than if you put in just the plain plastic. And your queen is running along the outside of the
I see her.
frame.
I just saw her. Yep, there she is.
All right.
Let's see that up close.
Yours is a little bit lighter than some of the other ones we've been seeing.
And where is she again? Where did she go?
She's right there. She's
running.
diving
okay.
under bees.
Okay. Okay. Very good. You got her. So your husband's going to be back here soon?
Yes, he just left Florida today.
Yeah, he told me. You guys have to put some bees in some apple orchards.
Oh, we got to take them out.
Oh, take them out?
Yep.
So that process is done already?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, everyone called pretty much at the same time to let him know. So if he's home early enough tomorrow, we'll start right away.
Now, they want them out? Is it because they don't want to get stung now that they want to get in there and be able to work?
Yeah, they spray a lot of different pesticides and fungicides. So they only want the bees in there when the bloom is going on. And then once they've done their job, they want them out right away so they can start spraying the fruit.
Yeah, we had a class where the folks from Cornell came in and they were doing analysis of what pesticides, not only pesticides, but there was something else that they were looking to see what the concentration levels were.
The fungicides, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, because those, they claim that they don't harm the bees, but they're finding that might be some inadvertent effects, like maybe it's synergistic if you're medicating your bees.
Uh-huh.
So it's just better to get our bees out as soon as we can.
So you tap those in there, you're smoking them down, so what they're doing is because their frames are in there, they know that's home.
Yes, and the queen's in there, so you should, once they settle down a bit, some bees should start fanning at the top there, and hopefully these stragglers will figure out that they moved.
Uh-huh.
Try to scoot this in pretty close, and then we'll just let it go for a while.
Yep.
The bees haven't really stopped flying until 8 or 8:30 at night anyway on these warm sunny days. So it'll be a little while before your field bees get back. I'm just going to give this another bounce. Get it out of the way. They will start going back to the empty nuke box sometimes since it smells like their hive.
Uh-huh. Cool.
So we can leave them alone for a little while and go on to the next one.
All right. Yeah, my desire to do this is because I garden and I have pollination issues.
Oh, really?
And so my initial goal is to end this pollination problem that I have, but if I can raise some productive hives,
yeah, I think you get some nice honey out of
get the
it
honey.
too. It's a good benefit.
What I've seen is there's a lot of interest in that flow hive system. I mean, it's too expensive to do commercially, but for, you know, 1 or 2 hives.
And it might be interesting.
Been watching a lot of videos.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it too much, but it certainly seems like it discourages you from looking in on your bees, because if you can just crack it open and let the honey flow out. And it's good to get in there once in a while to make sure that you've got a queen and your bees are healthy.
Okay, what's once in a while? Because
like
right now we're gonna establish these guys. In 6 days, I'm gonna add a second brood box, and then I was expecting to nose around in there at least once a month.
Yeah.
And then when there's a lot of activity, what is it, about every 2 weeks?
Yeah, we'll be in ours usually maybe once every 2 weeks or so. And you know, once they start producing a lot of honey, you might not want to dig down to the bottom as much. So that's fine if you're going down to once a month then.
Well, I thought that once I have the second brood box, it would just be a matter of seeing how they're growing inside that second brood box, whether there's vertical in the center or they're actually working their way out.
Yeah, and you know, you absolutely can do it. If it looks like it's going to be, you know, if it looks like they're doing well in the second box. Here's your queen right on this frame.
Then I'm going to have to do super.
She's a little darker than the last one.
Yeah. All right. Can you point to her?
Right here.
She's moving around, right?
Yep.
There she is moving. All right.
We're looking for places to lay eggs. It looks like this frame is getting pretty full. But yes, certainly, if you put a second brood box on top and they're filling it up well, drawing out frames, and you can see brood eggs, you don't really need to go down into the bottom.
But I ought to start considering putting super on, right?
I'd say, yeah, if you check them in 4 to 6 days, it's going to take them a little bit of time to draw out those frames. So they're not ready for it as of yet, but...
But I mean, as a young hive, could I expect possibly getting honey?
This year?
Yeah.
Yes, I think we should.
Wow.
It might not be as much as a bigger, more established hive, but I think you'll get honey from them. And with 3 hives, probably more than you'll want to eat yourself.
Well, Fred's got the equipment, and he's offered up when it's time
Oh, the extracting equipment?
to extract. Yep.
Okay. So this has quite a lot of pollen on the inside and cat brood to the
pollen is
outside.
that dark. Now, why are they doing that? What are they? Is that just extra pollen to be worked later?
The dark cells don't necessarily, might not have anything. They might have eggs in the bottom. I can't really see that well right now. The pollen is this light orange and yellow.
Uh-huh.
So pollen is their protein source.
Ah, okay.
So that's what they're going to be.
Honey is food, but the
Yeah,
pollen is the protein.
Yes, yeah. Honey is, you know, carbohydrates, so it gives them a lot of energy. And the adult bees like that. They're going out and working. The larvae need pollen in order to grow.
Oh, okay. I made up that Hive Alive mixture from the internet using those essential oils.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to be feeding these with the top feeder.
Okay.
Oh, look at that. Nice.
Yeah, the pollen's glowing on this one. Against the dark background.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So how long have you been doing this as a business?
My husband has been doing it for 12 years now. I've only been doing it for 3.
Wow.
He convinced me to quit my job and travel with him back and forth.
To Florida?
Yeah.
Now, are you active in Florida for both growing seasons or only the winter?
Only the winter.
Only the winter.
Yeah, we come
And everything goes down?
Yep. Yeah, so I'm not the person to ask about overwintering hives. 'Cause all of ours go down to Florida, they get a little R&R. And they're able to come back stronger then.
Nice. Now talk a little bit about what your strategy is for the mites. Starting with, okay, we've got a nuke. These should be pretty mite-free.
Yeah.
When are you going to do something, and what would you do?
That is something I would probably call Joe about.
Oh, okay. So you haven't messed with the treatments, whether it's those strips or.
We have done strips, but we only do those over the winter.
Okay.
Because you don't want to have those on during a honey flow.
Right.
This year we did try something new. We did oxalic acid towels, where you dissolve oxalic acid crystals in glycerin and soak those blue shot towels in it and lay those down in the hive. And the bees will, and mix it with a little honeybee healthy. And the bees will walk over the towels and chew them out. It should last about a month.
Because I got the oxidizer, I don't know if you've seen that, where it takes about 2.5 minutes where you oxidize a small amount, and it basically fills the entire inside of the hive with the vapor, and then, but that's only done a pre-winter treatment to get them off the bees, get the mites off the bees.
Yeah.
What are we looking at here? This looks like lots of pollen, right?
That is cap brood.
Oh, that is cap brood.
Yeah. They won't cap over the pollen. They'll just mix it with a little bit of honey and some of their mouth excretions and just pack it into the cells.
Wow. So there's brood on the side? You'd think you would see that in the center.
Yeah.
A little bit of honey there.
And you do, it's just these guys are, they're getting big. So they're running out of space. So she's laying all the way to the outside.
Nice. So that second box is going to come in handy.
Yes.
All right.
And you know, you might have a hive that dies. You'll be able to take the drawn out comb from that hive if you get another nuke and put it in there, and then the queen will have someplace to lay right away. You don't have to worry about them drawing out frames, and it'll speed things along.
Now that's a little bit darker.
Yeah. And this is an older frame. It's got older wax on it. The wax does darken over time. There's quite a lot of pollen on there.
The orange.
Yes.
And they fill that to the top? Looks like they're almost to the top.
Yeah, I don't know that they... I think they might leave a little bit of space. I don't think I've ever seen one that's full completely to the top.
Still looking for the queen. But So a little smoke with each frame, just to remind them.
Yeah, I like to get them off the top bars as much as possible, especially wearing these gloves. You know, my hands are not as coordinated, so I don't want to be smashing bees when I pick up the frames. So I want to drive them a little bit further down the frame. That's a lot of cat brood there.
Some action.
There's more cat brood in the middle. And some pollen by the top bar. And you can see sort of in between the cat brood and the pollen, there's some larvae in there that haven't been capped over yet.
Ooh.
Look like little worms, grubs.
Oh. Okay.
One guy we've become friends with, but he started off buying nukes from Joe. He once called and he said, "I think my hive might be dead." Joe was like, "Well, do you have eggs and larvae?" He's like, "What's larva?" He said, "A little, you know, it grows into the bees." "Oh, the maggots? Yeah, I got maggots."
I got maggots. Well, that's a good thing.
Yes. Alright.
That's drawn up.
Yes. There's quite a lot of eggs in the bottom. Some of them have started developing into pearl brood. So the eggs will be little long cylinders, and then once they develop into larvae, it'll be like little spirals in there. This frame must have been toward the outside and we moved it in. It's mostly pollen on this side.
Still haven't seen the queen. She be on the last one?
She could be. The one day I did it, yeah, or she might have been hiding under a clump of bees, or right here. That bee is just coming out of its cell. It just came out.
It just came out, yeah. There it is, walking for the first time. Wow.
Yes, hopefully we'll see her on the last frame. But you know, you've got quite a lot of eggs here, so you know she's been in here recently. Nothing catastrophic has happened in the past couple of days. And sometimes she'll be hanging out on the inside of the box or on the bottom as well. I see a drone. Oh, yep. There she is.
See her what? Up there she is.
Another dark one.
Put your finger on there again.
She's hiding under bees now. She's taking off running.
Okay, got it. That's the queen. Okay. We got her.
Alright, so we found all three. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Good start.
She's on the last frame. Go figure.
And that's what I've been finding most of the time is, you know, as the inside frames get filled up, she's going further and further to the outside.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these that I've installed, she's been on the last frame or the second to last frame.
You just bang them and knock them off. That's what I do too.
Yeah.
Take the honey on it, take the same thing, knock them on a stone.
Yeah, they're pretty resilient.
You got dandelions moving over here. Mustard.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah. There is some honeysuckle back there.
Oh, you got some.
Yeah. I didn't see if ours was blooming.
I don't know if they go on the lilacs.
I see a lot of bumblebees and hoverflies, but I haven't really seen the
I don't
honeybees.
see bees on lilacs.
Yeah. I did actually, there's a birch tree, and it's right outside the bathroom window, and I have seen some of the bees snooping around in there. I don't know if they're getting pollen out of it or what. Yeah.
Your lilac bushes are growing nice.
Yeah, thank you.
They love.
Well, they're so aromatic. And you have the 3 colors.
Yeah.
They're nice.
You get a lot of honeysuckle, so you got honeysuckle. Honeysuckle is good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then in the fall, this field will all be goldenrod.
Oh, that's good.
Yep.
And aster.
Yes. Yeah, it's an aster.
Aster crystallized. Sometimes you don't get too much aster if you get a frost.
Yeah. I've never tasted the aster honey by itself, but we did have one honey packer tell us that it's a little bit bitter. So I'm not sure.
It's very light in color. Not like you can tell the difference between that and goldenrod. Before you get into the vehicle, I'm going to take the bees off you. You know, it's like they're sitting on you. If you
Oh
see
yeah. Once we get it all packaged,
Yeah,
then we'll start working on ourselves.
So what are you going to do? You're going to set them. How are you going to move them now? You're going to pick them up with the.
Well, we'll put the lid on.
Yeah.
And then we'll set them back up here and strap them shut. And you said you have some wax that you'll put on the entrance.
Yeah, I can scrape some wax off some of these covers and roll it up a little bit.
Yeah, and then that'll be the last step. I don't have the inner cover, so the top will be sealed.
Yeah.
Hopefully that doesn't crush the bees. I hope.
I'll smoke them down real good first to make sure that they're off the top. If
Yeah.
if you were to put the top cover on with all the bees over the top of the frames there, yes, it would crush.
Yeah, we would crush them.
Yeah. So I'll smoke them down, and they should be fine for the trip home.
Yeah, I probably should have brought the inner covers too, and then just waxed up that opening too. But
That might have
okay.
been harder though, because that's a much bigger opening. I guess we could have taped it, but they'll be all right. We've got some
why
other
didn't I
people
think
who.
of that? You know, some blue tape, and then all they have to do is just peel it off. Ah. Well, it's lesson learned. Next time.
You have a lid for that?
Yeah, the lid
Yeah.
is over.
We're just waiting for them to return. How many nukes did you make this year?
We made 96.
Wow!
We've sold all the ones that are off to the side. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 55.
So, because when we took that class at the last meeting, it was how to make beekeeping a business, and they were talking about the ratio of actual honey sales and the amount of nukes to offset, the cost of doing business. And the nukes, I didn't realize, were such a big part of it. But the thing is, sustainment. You said you made 90, 96 or whatever? How many did you need for attrition? to keep you're up to about 800, right?
Yeah. Well, we when we make these nukes, generally it's with the intention of selling as many as possible. We have to make up far more splits than those 96 in order to, we might make 200 more hives in a year or something to try to get up.
Wow.
But generally when we do splits, because our main business is pollination and honey sales, so when we do our splits, we'll do something bigger than a nuke for ourselves because these just take a lot longer to get up and running.
So with a split, is that where you double stack, and then you have an excluder in the middle to separate the two?
Yeah, you don't want the excluder in there right away because then the queen can't get up to the top. So you'll have to double stack and let the queen get up and lay in both the top and the bottom. And so then we'll chase all the bees down into the lower one, put the excluder, and then the bees will start equalizing again, but the queen won't be able to get up to the top.
Right.
So that's the way we do it. If you're doing smaller splits, you don't have to do it that way. You could just take a few frames out of the bottom, put empty frames in there, put your excluder, and then put the frames of brood up top, and then the bees will still come up to take care of the brood.
Now, where does the second queen come in? Are you just building bee population, or are you actually starting a whole new hive with another queen?
So if you're doing that with the excluders, it's with the intention of starting another hive. So then once the bees have equalized between the two, the upper and the lower ones, eventually you'll take that top box off and you'll have to move it to a different location that's out of their flight range so that they don't go back to the lower box as home. And then that upper box now, it's full of bees, it's full of brood and honey, but doesn't have a queen. So that's where you're going to put the other queen. And then you'll wind up with 2 hives instead of 1.
And your queens, do you just find those queen cells and cage them, or do you buy them? Or
when we make the nukes, we buy cells, and we just put the cells in, and then they'll hatch and do everything without our intervention.
Oh, cool.
Yes. For ourselves, we'll buy mated queens. So the queen breeder they go through all of the process of finding the cells and mating the queens, and then going through catching the mated queens, making sure that they're good, and then putting them in cages. And then we just have to put the cage into the new box. And that's also, it gets the hive going. It's a lot more expensive to do it that way, but it gets the hive going faster because your queen's ready to go right away and start laying.
Yep. Yep. Oh. Well. We'll see if we get a swarm.
Yeah, if you get a swarm this year, I'll be surprised. Maybe in the fall.
Well, hopefully we'll give them enough real estate where there will be no. No, I don't.
Yeah.
But that was one of the things, characteristics of this bee, that they're low swarmers.
Yes.
And
that's good for you because the swarming shouldn't necessarily kill the hive because there should be enough bees and a queen left. You won't make as much honey, but it does, then you have a smaller hive.
They say 60% go with the swarm. That's a lot. Yeah.
How many swarms you get? I've had 2 of them already. Come out of one hive.
Oh.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And you didn't see the queen cells?
Well, the queen
in the bottom. Don't they usually point down on the bottom of a frame?
Yeah. And sometimes they'll put them in different places too. But yes, the regular brood and the drone brood is going to be facing out, and the queen cells will always go
face down.
Usually between the 2.
So if you see those, they move them?
People have killed them, if they didn't want swarm. But the thing is, there might be one extra one you don't see, and then they swarm. But the first queen that hatches, she may go around and knock out all the queens that she's, around.
Right, right.
It depends. it's a nice day to work now with the bees because it's not that hot. You're not sweating.
Yes.
Sometimes my hands, I could put my gloves up and the water would run out.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, when you're in the hot weather.
Yeah, these are relatively new gloves, so they're not discolored, but mine usually get sweat stains all over.
Yeah, I know. That's the trouble. I wore other mittens underneath to absorb the water because it was so hot, you know, a lot of times, and then everything would be wet inside. I could take the gloves off and just pour the water out.
Yeah.
It depends on how much you sweat. But today is not bad.
No, it's wonderful.
My whole inside was